What's up, people? Orseofkorse here, coming at you with another Paragon deck build. Today I want to look at my boy Revenant, and the reason being is because he received a fairly significant nerf with this last patch. It took me a while to get it out because I wanted to make a build that that I thought would benefit him now. So basically what happened is the mana cost for his Obliterate and for his Scar increased, and his Obliterate now has to abide by line of sight, meaning it can't it can't turn the corner with you now. There used to be like you would think you got around the corner so you avoided the Obliterate, and no, they just come through the wall or they turn with you and just hit you. So now you actually have to be able to see the person for the Obliterate to seek them out, which I think is a good change. That is fair. Obliterate was too much of a crutch, I think, even because I played a lot of Revenant and it was easy mode, almost as bad as Mortgage. So let's go ahead and talk about the build though. So I start off with the Archmagus, and the reason for that is basically he's a carry. He's a carry slash assassin. You want to make sure that he's hitting hard because your whole thing is isolating people, 1v1ing people. So you want to make sure if you get in that situation that you have the damage to melt somebody down. Because more often than you would like, you're probably going to get into 1v1 engagements that the person isn't about to die, especially if you mess around and you ult the wrong person or whatever the case may be. You'll get in situations where you want to make sure you have enough damage to 1v1 people. Now, as we get down here to the consumables, I filled them out pretty well. Health potion, Scout's Ward, Strike token, Healer token. Now, depending on the team you're playing against, depending on the team comp that you have, you can build differently starting the game off. Before we even talk about that though, the first card that you should always throw down is going to be your Brawler's Ward. This is my dummy ward. I always put these down because you can't depend on your support to have a ward. I mean, yes, the support should have a ward, but as a carry, you should also have a ward in your deck. So there's no excuse to be like, oh, well, you should have had one because you're a Dekker, blah, 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 blah. No, make sure you have your dummy ward. Make sure you keep your Scout ward just in case, your support doesn't have one, because it's your responsibility as well as your team to keep wards in their deck. So make sure you throw down your Brawler's Ward first. You go back, and then, depending on your team comp, like I said, I usually start off with the health potion and then the 2 strike tokens, because usually my support will be running wards, and it'll usually be phased. I'll feel pretty confident in not having that extra ward up, because with your dummy ward you have some pretty good vision. Now, if you don't feel as safe, for whatever reason, maybe you have a pseudo support, like you got Aurora or somebody, so maybe you want to go with a health potion, Scout ward, and a strike token, because your support's not running wards. Or you can go health potion, healer token if you have like 2 carries, because sometimes people want to play who they want to play, and you're not always going to get ideal team comps. So I put these cards in there just so I can have the freedom to work with whatever team comp I have. Now, as we get down here, I have 2 throwaway cards. I'm only going to show you one of them because I build them exactly the same. The first one is the Madison's Gem. So the Madison's Gem gives you 12 power, 5.5 attack speed. This is my favorite card to run any hero that's Fury, because this card gives you such a nice boost to damage early on. 12 power out the gate is amazing. Now, you want that power because it's going to help you last hit, it's going to help you secure kills. If your jungler's coming for that gank, it's going to help them get the kill, or you get the kill, whatever the case may be. Also, I equipped this with the 3 minor strikes, which give me an extra 18 power. So you're setting at 30 power early on, which is pretty good. Now, like I said, I have 2 of those. I'll build those early games so that I'm hitting fairly hard, so I'm getting my farm up. Now, your Assassin's Ward, that is 6 power, 4 basic pin, 2.5 lifesteal, and I equipped this with 3 lesser drains. Now, if you need wards early on, you might want to build the Assassin's Ward fairly early. I'll recommend building it, but not adding the life still on there until later game. But if you don't need the vision, maybe you don't build this yet. But usually, as a carry, I like to make sure I have that vision on. So once I have my 2 Madison's Gem, I'll go ahead and grab the ward, even if my support is running wards, just so we have that extra vision on the map. Because not everybody in your team is probably going to build wards, especially if you're in solo queue. So you always want to keep wards up, because as Revenant, you want to make sure you're getting ahead. That'll make those 1v1 situations so much easier for you. Now, as we get down here to the deck proper, I'm building crit, power, and some lifesteal. So the first card that I'm going to start out with is going to be Spirit of Rift Hunter. And for this one, I'm going to go all power. Crit early game isn't really super viable because you don't really have the damage to back it up, and you're not going to be able to build enough crit to actually be critting the super early game, right? So I go ahead and I build this with all power. It gives you 6 power, 4% crit, and then 8% crit once you fully upgrade it. And I'm going to equip mine with 3 strikes, which gives me 12 power apiece. So right here, you'll get a nice little spike to damage. You'll have 12% crit once you fully upgrade it, which isn't much, but you'll crit every once in a while. But the more important part is having that power. Now, the next card that I build is usually going to be this second Spirit of Rift Hunter. And this card right here gives you 6 power, 4% crit, and then 8% crit. But the difference here, I'm going to build 2 major casts, which 18 power apiece, and then a major wound. So right there, that's going to put you at 36% crit, which isn't bad at all. At that point, you probably don't want to build your Blade of Agora right then and there, but you are sitting at a fair amount of crit. Now, the next card that you can build is up to you. If you're finding yourself in a lot of 1v1 engagements and you want to build your Curse of the Lich, you can do that. If you want to go ahead and start building more crit and power, which is usually what I'll do, you can go with that. Now, the card that I usually build last is going to be the Curse of the Lich. What I'll usually do is build these 2 Spirit of Rift Hunters, my 2 12-point cards. I just showed you one of them. And then I'll go build the Blade of Agora, because at that point I'll have 60% crit. And that's when this card will become very handy, because you will have the damage and you will have the crit. So this card right here gives you 6 power, and more importantly, it gives you the 100% crit bonus, which is what I love about it. I equip this with major cast or minor cast, which gives me another 18 power, so 24 power right there, which isn't a whole lot, but like I say, you're going to be doubling your crit damage, which is amazing. And then the last card that I build is going to be Curse of the Lich. Now, I keep saying Lich, Curse of the Leech. Now, the reason I like this card, it gives you 6 power, 2.5 lifesteal, and then 7.5 lifesteal once you fully upgrade it. So 10% lifesteal right there with nothing added to it. I equip this with 2 major casts, which gives me 18 power apiece, and then a drain, which is going to give me 5 lifesteal right there. So I'll have 15 lifesteal, which is pretty good. And in 1v1 situations, that's going to help you stay alive. That's going to also help you solo or prime solo raptors later on in the game. So that's why I like Curse of the Lich. Since you can't depend on your Obliterate as much, I think it's very viable to make it so that Revenant can actually he can actually 1v1 people with his autos, more so than with his Obliterate. So you want him to hit hard enough to where he can go against Sparrow, he can go against Yin. Now that doesn't mean that he's not going to use his Obliterate. I mean, you still want to put that in your rotation, of course, but you just want to make your autos a little more viable. A lot of people didn't build crit with him before. They just built straight up power, straight up penetration. And I don't think that's as viable now. You have to be able to get in there and actually do damage with your autos. And building straight power is not going to work in game against Yin, against Sparrow, against even Murdoch. Because they're going to be building like more traditional carries. So they're going to melt you down, especially if you can't get that Obliterate off for whatever reason. Because now there's some really good counterplay for your Obliterate. Now, the last card we're going to look at again is going to be the Assassin's Sword. At this point, you'll go back and you will equip your Lesser Drains, which will make this card worth 10% lifesteal, or 10 lifesteal. So at the end game, you'll be sitting at 25 lifesteal, around 192 power, and 60% crit. Now, you can argue that you might need a little bit more power, so if you want, you can swap out like one of these drains for more power if you wanted to. Or 2 power, so you can be over 200. But for me, this deck seems to be working pretty good. In game, you're critting for about 5 something, which isn't crazy, but it's okay. You'll be able to do some pretty good damage. With Aura Prime, you're sitting at about 7. Most other carries will be sitting at probably around 8. But with your kit, I still think you'll be fine. Just remember you have your Obliterate, all that good stuff, so you'll still be able to melt people down. That's what I have so far for my Revenant. It seems to be working pretty good now. Once I get back home, I'm going to be trying some live streams with the deck build a little bit more with some decent internet. So we'll see how it works a little bit more once I get back into doing matches a little more frequently. But people, as always, if you like this deck, make sure to go ahead and drop a like. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Share the video out if you think somebody else may need help with their Revenant deck, or if you think they would just enjoy the video. It helps me out a lot, and maybe it'll help somebody else. Also, let me know who you are playing as carry right now, because I know Wukong wasn't exactly what people expected. Like, there are some people who are playing Wukong, but you know, now with Wraith out, you know, he's definitely, you know, people are definitely starting to forget about Wukong a little bit. He wasn't the carry that everybody thought he was going to be. So who are you playing right now? You know, Wukong was not, you know, top tier carry, obviously. Revenant just got a nerf. So who is your favorite carry now with all the changes and whatnot? As always, people, this is Orseofkorse. Thank you for viewing the video. We will see you in the next one. Peace.